Welcome back to another episode of Time Out with the Sports Doctor podcast, where life, sports, and medicine intersects. We are glad that you are part of this growing community where we strive to help you strengthen your mindset, help you grow your assets, and help you achieve whatever level of success that you want for your life. Go to our website at Dr.Derrick, thesportsdoctor.com, where you can find all the latest content, and you can also follow us on our social media channels. Now, let's get into this episode. So welcome back to another episode of Time Out with the Sports Doctor podcast. And it is a pleasure to sit with you at the end of 2024. We made it through pretty much another year. I mean, literally, if you're listening to this at the time of its release, you have about 24 hours to secure all of your Christmas gifts, and you have less than 1 week, or you have 1 week remaining to try to finish off whatever goals or dreams or aspirations you had planned for 2024. So congratulations to just making it. Some people is a accomplishment just to survive another year. Shout out to the Jackson State Tigers, who just secured their first HBCU national championship last weekend, defeating South Carolina State. Great game, great season. And what a way to close out this season with a national championship. So I want to first say what you see or what we see on TV or what you see on Saturday is only the tip of the iceberg about what really goes into making a championship season. I am blessed to have a behind the scenes view. I like to say the game inside the game or the game behind the game, being able to actually see what happens in a sports season, seeing the injury, seeing the recovery, seeing the game planning, the logistics of just traveling and booking hotels and catching flights and catching buses and rental cars and all the things that go into an actual football season. It's pretty amazing with all the moving parts to just see it all together. It's such an honor and privilege for me to be able to see all of this and experience all this and see young student athletes come in as freshmen and leave as seniors and see the growth and understand what they have to, the adversity they have to overcome and the injuries that they have to endure. And, still at the same time being a full-time student. So my hat goes off to the Jackson State Tigers. Congratulations on winning the Celebration Bowl and the first HBCU national championship for the school. So also it's Christmas, right? So Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everyone. We know that this can be a stressful time of the year. Also a time for many where you can finally disconnect and have some time off with family. So don't forget the main reason for the season, right? We sometimes can easily get caught up with buying gifts and going to parties and going to functions that we really forget the true meaning of the season. So for me, it is a time what I'm really looking forward to being able to finally disconnect for a little bit. As I mentioned, from the start of the season, we're now 5 months. We're pretty much since the start of fall camp, where my volume increases significantly and then travel increases significantly. And believe me, it's not something that I'm complaining about because it's something that I really enjoy, but after a while, it does take a toll. So I am very tired. On top of that, I have coached my son's football team. My daughter has games a couple of times a week. My other daughter has activities on the weekend too. And then on top of that, my wife works out of town. So it's stressful for our whole family. It's not just for me. So we're all looking for some time to just disconnect and get away and kind of refresh and get started for another year. So I want to talk about something that I really have been contemplating over the last several weeks. I work on a large medical campus, so many times I will walk from one side of campus to the other, which can take 12, 15 minutes. And sometimes I listen to things, sometimes I listen to myself as I walk. And one day I was just reflecting, and we're at the end of the year. I make goals at the beginning of each year typically, and just kind of reflecting over what I accomplished, what I wish I'd done more of. And I was thinking okay, it's kind of time to start reaping. Right. I reap some of the things that I've been sowing for a year. So anybody who's ever spent time in a church has probably heard a sermon about sowing and reaping, right? Or if you listen to motivational speeches and people talk about reaping your harvest. And when somebody says it is time for you to reap your harvest, what happens? Everybody gets excited. The crowd starts to cheer. People stand on their feet. They clap loudly because we all want to reap something, right? We all want to put in the hard work and see results for what we've done. So, what if someone tells you that this season is your season of cultivation? Will you stand up and cheer for that? You've sown the seeds, you're starting to see some growth. You see the plant starting to break through the ground. You see the plant sprouting, and now it's time to cultivate that plant, or now it's time to cultivate that dream because it's not ready to be picked yet. It's not ready for harvest. It's still in its infancy, but it's time to cultivate that dream. Are you still excited now? And I feel that that is for me in many phases of my life where I am. So let's just talk about what is cultivating. So, cultivate, verb, prepare and use land for crops or gardening. The peasants who cultivated the land became its owners. Number two, try to acquire or develop a quality or sentiment or skill. Synonyms for cultivate are to try to acquire, to pursue, to court, to try to develop, to work hard at, to foster. What do those words make you feel like? So now you've sown the seed. You're starting to see that it actually worked. Your idea, you weren't crazy. The idea that you had was correct. Now it's time to foster that growth, to work on it, to do the hard work. Are you still excited? So one thing I think about is this podcast is now 3.5 years old because I launched Father's Day 2021. So here we are, Christmas 2024. It hasn't always been fun, but now I see from the time that I put in 2021, or even before I launched, that I'm starting to reap a lot of things from that. You know, people reach out to me now to collaborate on different things, on episodes, to want me to promote their products, to want me to share my information or my episodes on their platform. These are all things that I had absolutely no clue. I thought about when I started a podcast, number one, being able to record episodes, making sure I had a guest because I didn't want to ever get on this microphone and talk by myself. So making sure I had guests, worried about would I have listeners. And then it grew to the point where I was worried about would I have sponsorship. As healthcare providers, we spend a large portion of our lives focused on our training as well as taking care of other individuals. But I'm calling a timeout because life can change in an instant. We know it's difficult to fathom that a sudden illness, injury, or death could put you and your family in a devastating financial situation. But that's where Dr. Stephanie Pearson and her unique team of advisors at Pearson Ravitz come into play. They focus on empowering physicians like yourself to protect your most valuable asset, your income, and life's most important people, your family. So go to pearsonravitz.com to make sure that you are protected today. So now it's coming to come full circle where people are asking me to use their products to build programs. Or this last year, I did my first program with Influent Network that I'm now an advisor for that network. So this all came because I continued to cultivate the gift or cultivate this podcast over the last 3 years. And now things that I never even dreamt of happening are happening. And opportunities that I never even thought about are coming to fruition. So I just want you to kind of think about that. You know, we want to sow and we want to reap, but do we really want to do the work that it takes to develop the dreams? And I'm not just talking to you because I still have things in my life that I have to cultivate. So last year, I joined the Next Level Speakers Academy. So I've done a lot of coursework. I've gone to a lot of virtual meetings. I've gone to a in-person mastermind, but it's still in its infancy. And this is something that I have to really cultivate. So as you notice over the last several months, it's probably been a lot fewer guests on this podcast and a lot more of me talking. And I've combined that with compiling some of the episodes previously to try to give you themed-based content. So I will you're going to continue to hear more of me speaking. I have set some goals for the 2025 year of actually paid speaking engagements and things of that nature. I have a new website that I'm going to be releasing soon. I have a new speaker reel that you have not seen that will be coming out soon. So that's one thing that I had to cultivate. Also, real estate. We've talked a lot about real estate on this podcast. In 2023, 2024, I started to put some things in place. We got a real estate CPA, began doing some real estate courses. You notice I had different people on the podcast talking about real estate, but it got frustrating because we were doing the work, we were building a team, but we didn't have a product. And anybody who's married knows that sometimes when it's your idea and you're not getting the results, it's your fault, right? So the question was, why do we have a real estate CPA? Why we have this team, but we don't have a product? And I really didn't have a great answer, but I knew that we had to prepare, right? We had to prepare for when it was time. And we learned how to evaluate these deals. We learned how to see a property and say, okay, does this work? Number one, what's the next step? But we still didn't have anything to land. And it was frustrating. However, in 2024, we were able to surpass the goals that we made for ourselves. Number one, with long-term real estate, we were able to acquire our first major property. And now the learning starts again. Now, how do you manage that? As well as at the end of 2023, we started our first short-term real estate. And we were pleasantly surprised about the success that we had from that one property that is not in a sexy location. So one of the myths about short-term real estate is it needs to be a vacation home, right? You think a beach house. No, none of the above. Located in Muscle Shoals, Alabama. Okay, sure. Close to the Tennessee River, close to a golf course. But we were pleasantly surprised by the success that we've had. And it really was just from things that we've already learned and then putting it into play, overcoming the fear of what if this fails, which, as you all know, is something that can paralyze you and keep you from doing what you want to do. So now that we've done it once, it's time to do it again. So cultivate. I want people to just kind of ponder on that when you kind of do an evaluation of what happened in 2024 as you start to set your goals, dreams, and New Year's resolutions. Because I don't really focus on the resolution part because I know that the data shows that most people, the resolutions die in the first month. However, I know that I have to get back on track with some of the things that I haven't done well at the end of the year. So working out, eating healthy. After this holiday season, let's go ahead and enjoy this next week, but let's get back on track. So I was in a recent session with Coach Crump, and he shared one thing, and it really goes hand in hand with what we've been talking about today. And he said, can you stay strong enough long enough? Can you stay strong enough long enough to endure the hardships, to endure the setbacks, to endure the frustration of I'm not producing the way that I want to? Can you stay strong enough long enough? And I think that's really what separates those that are really successful, those who are able to work through adversity, to overcome adversity. It's really just staying the course. Even when it looks like you're wasting time, even when it looks like your dreams are failing, stay the course. So I'm going to leave you with, can you stay strong enough long enough? Hope you have a Merry Christmas. I wish you a Happy New Year. The next time we'll talk will be in 2025. Hey, if you didn't accomplish everything you wanted to in 2024, does it really matter? It's simply a calendar changing over. Continue to stay the course, continue to do the work, and in due time, you will reap the harvest. Be blessed. Thank you for continuing to support this podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, then please leave a 5-star review. And if you haven't done so, subscribe so you continue to get the updated episodes. Until later, peace. Time out with the sports doctor. Keep our head right in the game. We ain't never stopping. You are now tuned in. Trust you don't want to miss. This is where life, sports, and medicine.